Hello, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's a true honor to stand before you today to discuss the transformative initiative in our industry, which is the adaptation of the medical device single audit program, or the MedSAP. As highlighted in previous sessions, the themes of reliance and convergence have been central to our discussions. These concepts are not just theoretical. They are practical strategies that can significantly enhance our regulatory framework and industry practice. Reliance on shared regulatory assessments and convergence toward harmonized standards are essential for reducing duplication, increasing efficiency, and ensuring that our regulatory efforts are focused on what matters, which is the safety and efficacy of devices. MedSAP embodies these principles by providing a unified audit approach that meets the requirement of regulatory authorities, of multiple regulatory authorities. Regulatory convergence and reliance advance smart regulation and underpin an efficient, resilient, and sustainable regulatory framework. We as industry support the inclusion of reliance principles as part of all medical device regulatory framework. It is a powerful tool to facilitate accelerated access in any market, but particularly in emerging markets with limited regulatory resources or a public health emergency like African market. Furthermore, we align with WHO's assessment that reliance represents a smarter form of regulatory oversight, and a decision to regulate through reliance is the hallmark of an efficient, modern regulatory authority. It's worth to announce also, as a member of MECOMED, we are planning to work on industry paper highlighting the importance of MedSAP and benefits of adopting MedSAP in African countries. This is planned to be distributed soon with national authorities in Africa. What is MedSAP? Based on ISO 13485, 2016, the Medical Device Single Audit Program, MedSAP, allows the conduct of a single regulatory audit of a medical device manufacturer's quality management system that satisfies the requirement of multiple regulatory jurisdictions. MedSAP audits are conducted by auditing the designated and authorized by the auditing organizations designated and authorized by the MedSAP Regulatory Authority Council to audit under MedSAP requirements. Launched initially in 2014 as a pilot program, and the proof of concept was made as of 2018. The affiliate member category was opened in 2020. Here, please allow me to call out specifically and congratulate Kenya Pharmacy and Poison Board to be the first African country joining as an affiliate member earlier this year. The program is going from strength to strength, with latest program data showing more than 26,000 audits for more than 7,000 manufacturing sites across 78 countries. About 15 number of auditing organizations are able to conduct MedSAP audits. However, adapting MedSAP to the unique context of African countries presents specific challenges and opportunities. Factors such as regulatory capacity and economic constraints require careful considerations from all stakeholders. So, during this session, we aim together to explore the potential benefits of MedSAP adaptation for African countries, identify the key challenges and barriers to adopt MedSAP, discuss strategies for overcoming these challenges and ensuring successful adaptation, and foster collaboration and knowledge sharing among regulatory authorities, industry stakeholders, and healthcare providers. By addressing these issues, we aim to contribute to the development of a robust and harmonized regulatory landscape for medical devices in Africa, ultimately improving patient safety and promoting economic growth. Thank you for your attention. And now, let me introduce Dr. Bouchra. Dr. Marie, a regulatory professional with over a decade of experience in African countries' landscape, started her career with Johnson & Johnson in 2009, held various roles of increasing responsibilities. Currently, Regional Manager, Regulatory Affairs and Policy in MEA region. Please, Dr. Marie, join us to shed a light more on the MedSAP.
Thank you, Marwa. It's a real honor for me today. I've been working for Africa for more than 10 years now, and I have a real passion for Africa and seeing the regulatory landscape evolving over the past decade, and looking forward to more evolution in the regulatory landscape in Africa to catch the international standards and regulation. So I think Marwa gave us a really good introduction on MDSAP, and most of us know what's MDSAP, but for those of us who don't know what's MDSAP, MDSAP is the Medical Device Single Audit Program. It allows of a single regulatory audit for the quality management system of medical device manufacturers. So basically, it's not for products, it's for the quality management system of the medical devices manufacturers to satisfy the regulatory requirements of multiple regulatory jurisdictions. Maybe as Marwa also mentioned in the introduction, it's not covering only the requirements for ISO 13485, but additionally other specific requirements for the participating regulatory authorities in the program. Audits are conducted by auditing organizations that are authorized by those participating regulatory authorities to audit according to the MDSAP requirements. Marwa also mentioned a bit of the history. So it started as a working group under IMDRF with 4 participating authorities: Australia, Brazil, Canada, and USA. A pilot program has run around the date of 2014, 2016. 2015, Japan joined the participating authorities, so we're really talking about authorities with the real stringent regulatory requirements here. And then full implementation towards 2017, 2018. 2019, Health Canada dismissed their own conformity assessment for medical device manufacturers and now currently relying only on MDSAP program. MDSAP is designed to review the compliance of a manufacturer's quality management system to international standard, as I just mentioned, not only ISO 13485, but additional regulatory requirements from the 5 participating regulatory authorities. There is a lot of resources on the web that I encourage you to go through that explains in details and in depth the MDSAP audit cycle. It consists of 3 cycles. Initial audit followed by a surveillance at year 1, surveillance at year 2, and then repeated audit at year 3. So it's not just a one-time and go, but it's really a program that allows close monitoring of the quality management system of regulatory of the manufacturing site, medical device manufacturing sites. Again, those are the MDSAP participating regulatory authorities: Australia, TGA, Brazil, Anvisa, Canada, Health Canada, Pharmaceutical and Medical Devices Agencies of Japan, and the US FDA. So we're really talking about real stringent regulatory authorities from all over the world that are imposing their requirements to be part of this audit in addition to the ISO 13485. There is also the MDSAP official observer. Again, we're talking about the European Union, Singapore Health Science Authority, United Kingdom, MHRA, and the World Health Organization. And I know a lot of African countries look up to the benchmarking tools of the World Health Organization. So I think there is a real opportunity here to rely on MDSAP and recognize MDSAP as part of that. There is also MDSAP affiliate members. So far, those are the announced affiliate members on the FDA website. Argentina National Administration of Drug, Foods, and Medical Devices, Ministry of Health Israel, Kenya Pharmacy and Poison Board, which is a real pride to see Kenya on the affiliate members, and it's a great initiative from one of the leading regulatory authorities in Africa, looking into best practices and conversions. Republic of Korea, Federal Commission of Protection and Sanitary Risk of Mexico, and the Taiwan Food and Drug Administration. So what are the benefits of becoming an affiliate member for MDSAP? So affiliate members are regulatory authorities that show interest in MDSAP and wish to engage with MDSAP and utilize the MDSAP reports and deliverables to assess and evaluate the medical devices manufacturer quality management system. So basically, these affiliate members will have access to any audit reports, results, and deliverables from the MDSAP audit. And what does that mean in practice? So if a medical device manufacturer is to export their products into one of these countries where these regulatory authorities operate, it will have access, the authority will have access to the MDSAP results and deliverables, as I just mentioned, the audit reports of this manufacturer, and therefore this will accelerate and expedite the evaluation process, and will get the product into the market and into the patient in a faster manner. And it's also to note that non-MDSAP members or affiliate members may also benefit from relying on MDSAP as part of a unilateral reliance by leveraging MDSAP certificates and audits as a replacement for local audits and additional on-site audits, which we see a lot of times from many regulatory authorities as requirements to go physically and inspect manufacturing site of medical devices. So what are the benefits of relying on MDSAP? And I think this is a really important piece, because the benefits are not only for the manufacturers, but also for the authorities. So it's only one audit that shows compliance with standards and regulatory requirements for up to 5 stringent regulatory authorities. So it really helps prevent any inconsistencies. So without MDSAP, each national regulatory authorities will have their own auditing criteria, and there might be a lot of gaps here that may impact the final safety and efficacy of the product that is going into the market. So it's really, it provides a harmonized and a robust auditing criteria that are also consistent, and the deliverables are really transparent. It minimizes the medical device manufacturer's disruption due to multiple regulatory audits, and that basically free up time for medical device manufacturer to really focus on the auditing criteria from one auditing organization that they will focus and adhere to. A minimal disruption due to multiple audits from multiple authorities around the globe will also allow time for the manufacturers to work on continuous improvement of their quality management system. As I just mentioned, it reduces the time and resources dealing with these findings from multiple audits. And it also, from authorities' perspective, it really, as I mentioned, it provides a consistent and transparent system for auditing quality management system of manufacturers, but it will also provide efficient use of capacity, right? A lot of authorities have limited capacity on ground. Most of the authorities in Africa are newly regulated. So I think relying on or recognizing an MDSAP audit program will free up time also at authorities' side to maybe focus on more critical tasks and post-marketing surveillance. And at the end of the day, I think we're all here for the patient, so it will really benefit the patient, right? It provides a high standard, safe and efficient product to the patient, and it will provide also an acceleration and expedited approval way. There is a lot of references on the web. FDA is a good one. Marwa also mentioned about our position paper regarding MDSAP that will be also shared with relevant authorities. And I think the real message here is the best way to move forward is often to pick up from where others left off, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have a very strong, harmonized, and robust auditing system that we need to leverage to ensure safe and fast and effective access of the medical devices to our patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Before we delve into our discussion, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience on this topic. Dr. Shellan Omondi, Regulatory Officer, Pharmacy and Poison Board, Kenya. Dr. Shellan is a regulatory officer at the Pharmacy and the Poisons Board in Kenya, where he is part of the Department of Product Evaluation and Registration in the Medical Devices and In Vitro unit. He oversees the evaluation and the registration of medical devices and IVDs to ensure they meet safety, efficacy, and the quality standards in the Kenyan healthcare market. Please welcome Dr. Shellan. Our next speaker, panelist will be Mr. Dario Bellomini, Manager, International Affairs, MedTech Europe. He is the Manager of International Affairs at MedTech Europe, the European Trade Association for Medical Technology Industry, including diagnostic, medical devices, and digital health. In his position, Mr. Dario manages and coordinates projects and working groups addressing market access, trade policy initiative, and international regulatory matters in the medical technology sectors with a primary focus on countries outside of Europe. So welcome, Mr. Dario. And finally, we have Ms. Khatija Suleman, Head Regulatory Affairs, Becton Dickinson, Vice Chairperson, Summit Regulatory Committee. Ms. Khatija, she insisted to be Ms. not Dr. Khatija. Despite of all these, Khatija Suleman is a pharmacist with a postgraduate qualification of clinical pharmacology. She has 35 years of dynamic engagement in pharmaceutical medical devices, in vitro diagnostic, clinical pharmacy, and academia. Her experience and expertise in various sectors of the healthcare industry come from a wide range of roles and responsibilities in medical affairs, regulatory affairs, clinical trials, pharmacovigilance, post-marketing surveillance, and quality management. Welcome, Khadija. Working? Yes, it's working. So let's start by asking Mr. Shellan on Kenya experience on being member affiliate of MedSAP. Why did Kenya think of it? What is the driven intention to be an affiliate member? What was the objective? What was the obstacles? Was there a cost involved? Talk about your experience. Maybe it inspires other regulator in the country.
Thank you for that. Good afternoon. My name is Shellan Omondi from Pharmacy and Poisons Board, Kenya. So to start with, I think this process was thought of a long time ago, I think around 2022. But the actualization started last year. Our main objective of joining the MDSAP affiliate member was also our dream of beginning the local audits. So we had to leverage on what MDSAP had and also try to do reliance and implement that at home. In terms of cost, from the application till approval, there's no cost. I think your major investment is time. And then for the requirements, I think the key requirements, one is training of your medical device staff. And also two, you must have the laws and regulations in place which are based on the Global Harmonization and Task Force, and also the IMDRF guidelines. So with that, we started drafting also our local guidelines, which were approved in late 2022. And after that, for the past 2 years, we've managed to conduct 3 local QMS inspections of our local medical device manufacturers. And now we are targeting to start international audits for the foreign medical device manufacturers.
Okay. So the whole journey took about 2 years or more?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. Mr. Dario, we know that the eyes from the region is always on European and Europe position on this single audit program. So please talk to us about Europe position.
Yes, thank you very much. And before answering, indeed, thank you again for having me on this panel. It's a good opportunity. And I will start with a general reflection by saying that, MDSAP, talking with multiple authorities, with multiple experts of industry, is perhaps the most vivid success story coming from the IMDRF. Because it's been launched indeed around 10 years ago, right, in 2014 as a pilot first, and over time it has managed to build confidence and trust of the various participating countries that are full members to the MDSAP program. Unfortunately, in the EU, we are not there yet, in the sense that it is true we are official observers, so in a sense we have some association with the project, with the program, but we don't have yet in place a mechanism that is granting full recognition to MDSAP certificates or that for the purpose of the CE marking of devices. Nevertheless, we hear the push from the industry, the interest from various stakeholders, because we understand that having this full participation in the MDSAP initiative will bring multiple benefits to a wide array of stakeholders. So we are pushing and try to convince indeed the EU to have a more solid role in this direction as well. At the time being, we have only one MDCG guidance from 2020, number 14, if I'm not mistaken, in which there is it's quite a short guidance, but there are some explanation on the manners, on the ways that MDSAP certificate can be used in Europe. And the use is rather limited in a sense, because they can be used for periodic audits, not for the first initial audit, and not for unannounced audits. So there is a limited use, but still some elements of it can be used also for the MDR and VDR QMS requirements. However, we see that the reality is a bit different, and the reality is actually pushing towards having EU having a stronger role, because we have run a survey with our members. We managed to collect responses from 98 companies, both large manufacturers but also SMEs. And we see that the response go all in the same direction. That is, approximately 80% of the companies we surveyed have already an MDSAP certification in place or are in the process of obtaining certification. So there is a strong understanding, at least on the industry side, of the benefits that might be coming with a stronger MDSAP participation. And also that combine audits, so audits in which the MDSAP requirements are assessed together with the MDR, AVDR requirements or those of other regulatory frameworks, are already conducted in parallel, perhaps at the same time or just following up with a short time difference. So why not speeding up the entire machine, requiring just one audit that can be used for both covering the EU requirements and the MDSAP requirements. And we believe that this would bring ultimately to a series of benefits for various stakeholders. And in the slide, those for industry were very well indicated, but then we see benefits for SMEs, for the countries that decide to implement this program, for the competitiveness indeed of various jurisdictions. So it's a huge cascade effect. And indeed, that is why we are also in the process of preparing some additional documents and materials to showcase the benefit of this. We can further expand later on, but this is a first answer.
Do you think that the fact that Europe has already a standard in place, or ISO 13485 in place, that make Europe is not interested in another standard that will not bring more value to European countries?
Well, the interest, I believe, it's there, because we see the actual reality. We've done this survey with the membership, and we've collected the data on how the industry is seeing the transition, and we collected inputs informally also from other authorities and so on. I think the main point there is the need for a change in the legislation, because if you look at the text of the EU legislation right now, having this recognition of MDSAP certificate for the purposes of CE marking, there is not this direct correlation. So perhaps we might take advantage of the targeted evaluation of the MDR AVDR, which is currently going on with the European Commission, or there are different channels that can be further explored, but we need this indeed improvement, this change in the legislation that would allow giving legal value to these MDSAP certificates. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Dario. And now, Ms. Khatija, how do you find that GMP audits for pharma and medical devices may differ or be similar?
That's a very important question, because as we've seen with the regulatory frameworks, there's the tendency to copy and paste from pharma, and we find this creeping into audits and inspections as well for medical devices. So while there are commonalities between the pharma products as well as medical devices, we have to look at the differentiating and focus areas, mainly around the nature of the products and the associated risks of the products during and beyond the manufacturing phase. So I'll just touch on a few points in terms of these differences. Internationally, if we look at the regulatory framework and baseline for the audits, and in terms of harmonization, we see for pharma, it's the PICS guidelines to harmonize GMP inspection for pharma. When it comes to medical devices, we see ISO 13485 certification or standards being used as the foundation for the GMP audits. And this is very important in terms of the findings or any areas of improvement that may be, because you need to actually have outcomes from an audit based on a regulatory foundation and framework. The other area I want to touch on is the actual nature and manufacturing processes. With pharma, we have, if you're looking at chemical compounds, it's chemical synthesis. If you're looking at biologicals, there's differences there as well. There may be fermentation, biological processing that happens. But ultimately, you are looking at an active pharmaceutical ingredient, which then needs precise formulation, goes into bulk manufacturing, and then ultimately you are then formulating or delivering into a single unit dosage form, or maybe also a multi-dose, but it's then into a final dosage form. When we look at medical devices, due to the nature and variety of the medical devices, the processes really involve primarily the design. And thereafter, then you're looking at selection of materials, multiple components that may form a part of this medical device, how you actually assemble them, and then ultimately how that becomes a final product or system. If you look at IVDs, in fact, that's also very different from your other medical devices. The risk management, we see that ICHQ9 will cover risk management for pharmaceuticals, whereas the ISO 14971 for medical devices as well. Focus areas for documentation during audits also will vary, right? We look at, because with pharmaceuticals, you're looking at the purity, the potency, the strength, consistency in your final dosage form. So your batch manufacturing records, the quality control, laboratory reports, all of that become focus areas, validation of your processes and equipment. When it comes to medical devices, really what is entrenched is your device design history, your device master records, your device history file. You're looking at validation, yes, also included. But then we also look at another very important aspect of it meeting certain standards and specifications that ensure the performance ultimately at the user end. IVDs, you're looking at issues of reliability of testing, looking at specificity, sensitivity, calibration of instruments. So the focus areas of the products really differ in terms of the auditing.
Thank you. And the focus for the inspector should differ accordingly. So what are they looking for should differ from pharma, from medical devices.
Absolutely. You have to have, the inspectors have to have appropriate training for that specific product, industry. So you cannot really say someone from pharma can easily just switch into medical device unless they have the appropriate training. It also requires a firm knowledge of the type of product, because as we've seen, the vast diversity in medical devices, right, and IVDs. So you really need to ensure that these are specialized audits and inspections. And also we need to understand that you need to go beyond just the manufacturing aspect. It is only one part of assuring the safety and the performance of medical devices. And therefore you have to look through the entire product life cycle from the design right until your post-marketing use.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Khatija. And Dr. Marie, how can MedTech contribute to improving the safety and quality of medical devices in Africa?
Thank you for the question, Marwa. So I think, as I just maybe mentioned in the presentation, it provides a very robust standards and criteria for auditing. So manufacturers are clear what are they been auditing for, right? So again, and then therefore we're eliminating any inconsistencies from individual NRA's audits, right? So we have a set of standard manufacturer is working towards. It's very robust. It's covering the 13485 plus the 5 participating regulatory authorities jurisdiction. No gaps in the standards that might arise from different authorities auditing individually. That's, I think, the main part of it. So you're ensuring consistent safety and efficacy of the final product because the site was audited based on a consistent and harmonized requirements. And then I think for the manufacturer and the authority, the authorities, again, most of our authorities are under-resourced and they have capacity issues. So I think instead of focusing on something that they can leverage or recognize MDSAP for, we'll leave that up to the MDSAP or the single audit program and maybe leverage their resources for other critical tasks like post-marketing surveillance, material vigilance, maybe monitoring counterfeits and parallel imports and so on and so forth. From manufacturer perspective, also it is important because let's talk practical, right? So a manufacturer are sitting there receiving, MDSAP, receiving audits from other notified bodies to satisfy the EU requirements. And then imagine, country here and country there wanting to audit and visit. So I think we're eliminating that and freeing up time for the manufacturer to really look into improving their quality management system based on those strong and stringent regulatory authorities' requirements instead of, hosting audit every couple of months or something which needs preparation and then initiation of reports and so on. It also decreases the risk, right, for market access. For the manufacturer, so you get more products from the manufacturing site rather, than maybe manufacturers looking into retiring or withdrawing from some of the markets due to the burden and cumbersome regulatory requirements.
True. This will encourage more manufacturers to penetrate even markets that they didn't touch before.
Exactly, and then you're enhancing, the efficacy and the safety of, you're ensuring the safety and the efficacy of the product from both sides, right? So the authorities, instead of going and duplicating some audits and inspection physically, they will be looking into other aspects of safety and efficacy, which may be the post-marketing surveillance and, looking into ways of controlling parallel in-person counterfeits and fighting those areas. And from manufacturing side, you'll then be more focused on a standardized and harmonized requirements, continuously improving, continuously being audited. Like I mentioned on the slides, it's like year on year there is some type of surveillance, not only an initial audit.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. Mr. Shellan, how did Kenya see the patient-related implication of not adopting MedSAP? How Kenya decided to go through this journey and process? How did you see it from the implication on the patient?
Some of our stakeholders had already informed us that they also have the manufacturing plants in some of these countries where they've already been audited by the authorized AOs. So we saw that at least let's have that vision so that when we start mandatory audit inspections, it will be now easier for those products or those medical devices to get into the Kenyan market, because the major advantage of adapting these reliance mechanisms, it is also to ensure faster access of these medical devices to the patients. So it wasn't like an idea which was done because of an existing problem. We're just foreseeing a problem in the future once we implement our guidelines in premise establishments inspections.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Dario, how do you see international organizations and the regulatory bodies can support African countries in building the necessary capacity and infrastructure for MedSAP implementation?
Yes. So again, I'm here talking about, representing industry, not really international organization, but I will try to look at that. And I will look at that looking at the benefits that will come with the wider participation of more authorities in the program. We've been discussing before, and we've seen in the slide the benefit in terms of regulatory efficiency, streamlined audits, faster review processes, and so on. And this would bring benefits to a wide array of stakeholders indeed. Not only industry, because perhaps the benefit for large manufacturers are the more clear ones, but we can also look at benefit for SMEs that we know that sometimes are lacking the resources to access the wider global international marketplaces, and with having MDSAP certification, this would facilitate their access to 5 large jurisdictions that are full members, getting in touch with 4 official observers, with 6 affiliate members, and so on. So it would expand their market base. We know about the benefits that would come also for countries themselves to participate in this, because they would be recognized as members of a solid regulatory discourse, to be always up to date and up to speed with what is being going on international regulatory discussion, and would also facilitate their participation in reliance pathways. We've been discussing yesterday, right, the concept of reliance, the importance this can have for industry. And we start to see already some examples, like the reliance pathway that was introduced in June by Brazil Anvisa, which is providing an abridged pathway, a fastened pathway for market authorization that are coming from the other members of the MDSAP, the other full members of the MDSAP program. So having more countries participating in that would fasten up the uptake of reliance as a concept in multiple jurisdictions. So there are many benefits that can be taken and that can convince perhaps more and more countries to look into participation in the MDSAP. And perhaps I will conclude this answer with a provocative thought or reflection on what we are doing in Europe, because we notice, especially going outside of Europe, for those countries that are relying on the CE marking, we see that authorities tend to trust the work of notified body, right? We've been hearing that there are some questions, some requirements in terms of confirmation letter from notified body, which, I mean, in our view is still optional, but still authorities are continuously asking for it, so they trust the work of notified body for that one. But then they do not trust the work of auditing organization when it comes to QMS audits, and they want to go and check with or on-site audit themselves. So this is a bit a contradiction in our view. Where is the level of trust? Where do we put the bar, you know? And so why not trusting the working of auditing organization? Also, keeping in mind what an intervention yesterday from the audience, I believe, was also underlining that companies are there to provide safe, innovative technologies, not to do anything at the arm of patients or to find sneaky ways to find dangerous products on the market, right? So I believe we are all working in the same direction. Let's join forces. Let's make the process faster and easier to make sure that all these quality devices can reach the end users and the patients.
Yeah, thank you. Very valid point. Ms. Khatija, what about other audit certification reliance aspects for sites that may not have MedSAP certification? Some may already have GMP certification from another stringent authority. And how do we leverage ISO 13485 and ISO 14971 certification into African NRA audits?
While we acknowledge MDSAP as being sort of the gold standard, we have to recognize the various role players in the industry, and not every manufacturing site may have evolved to the stage of having MDSAP certification. So we still need to look at other ways of providing that compliance assurance to the regulatory authority. ISO 13485 certification can be leveraged as that international standard which can provide that assurance. If you look at and truly understand and know the standard, and because there's certification to that standard, there's auditing, there's surveillance, similar to MDSAP, there's routine surveillance audits, and there's re-auditing. So there is a process that is similar to MDSAP in terms of the rigor of that certification. So we need to look at what are all the components of the ISO 13485 standard that gives that assurance. Obviously, as I've mentioned, it's all the way looking from the design of that medical device or IVDs right to the post-marketing surveillance. That in itself should give the authority the assurance that if you are certified with ISO 13485, definitely you will attain a certain standard that is well recognized, has numerous benefits. In fact, even if you look at market access, you will see customers or healthcare organization, procurement agencies looking for ISO 13485 certification of your sites. So that in itself also allows market access. We need to be a little bit more cognizant that to give the authority the assurance, even if they have local requirements, they can look at other ways of supplementing ISO 13485 certification as part of their auditing requirements. They can look at desktop audits, for example, instead of on-site inspections. They can look at marketing history, and we heard yesterday about using the post-marketing surveillance data to give you that reassurance, looking at how many complaints come through for that product. Because very often in Africa, we're looking at products that already have a well-established market presence in other countries. So let's leverage all of this other data. We've mentioned ISO 14971 as part of the risk management. That is very critical also for medical devices, to give that assurance that the performance and the risks associated get minimized and managed throughout the product life cycle. So I think the authorities need to really appreciate and understand the standard, and then leverage that as part of a comprehensive evaluation and auditing of a manufacturing site and the products that come from that site.
So it is a concept.
Absolutely.
More than one program. Yes. The next question, it's open, so I do encourage audience if they willing to answer. What could be the key barrier that regulators face in adopting MedSAP, and how can these be addressed? So, any idea if you wanted to start and open more discussion to audience?
Marwa, if you allow me, I just want to comment on something what Dario mentioned about the notified body letters and how authorities in our region are strict about it, but then they don't believe on other type of documentation like the ISO 13485 or the MDSAP document. I just want to say, between brackets, most of the auditing organizations that are recognized by MDSAP or that issues the notified body confirmation letters are the same that are doing, the same notified body are the auditing organizations. So it makes a lot of sense to even rely on those. And also to your question to Dr. Shellan about the impact on the patient. It is really a negative impact, just to add, because from also manufacturer perspective, all of these audits require certain type of cost on manufacturers, right? So most of the authorities in our region that requires a manufacturing site inspection, that's usually associated with certain type of cost. And unfortunately, this cost will be reflected at the end of the day on the patient, because it will impact the price of the market access for the manufacturer. So either manufacturer will pay and welcome the visit and all of that with all its positive and negative associations. But at the end of the day, so either we accept the audit and then all good, but it will be reflected on the price for the patient. But also some manufacturer will think twice before penetrating a market. So it will make manufacturers maybe reluctant to, if they have an innovative device or a new technology, they will maybe keep it for other easier markets.
Especially, and the nature of African countries' markets are very small markets. So.
Exactly. So, so I think that, it was said yesterday, we're here for the patient, right? While the intentions are good, and the ultimate objective maybe is to provide a safe and effective medical device to the patient, but these type of barriers and burdens sometimes deprive the patient from getting access to innovative technologies and new technologies.
Yes. You want to comment?
I actually want to give the example of the US FDA. The US FDA has their own regulations in terms of medical device GMP, right? That's entrenched in 21 CFR 820, which is also their quality system regulation. But recently we've seen that the FDA has moved towards embedding ISO 13485 into that regulation formally. And that in itself will give an indication in terms of how you can leverage, how authorities can move. If you've got an authority like the US FDA, who's now re-looking at how they can incorporate international standards into their GMP requirements, then that in itself is a great example of how they formally and legally moving into that space, so that there is less of a burden of duplication. So even manufacturers maybe that have ISO 13485 certification do not need additional requirements to gain access to a US market. They did a gap analysis actually between the differences between ISO 13485 and their own local requirements in the US. And they actually found very little difference. And that's how they managed to actually incorporate ISO 13485 within their quality management and GMP requirements.
Back to question. What could be the barrier that hinder countries of adopting MedSAP? Yeah, please.
Thank you. I think barrier number one is what my fellow panelist has already talked about. The revolt from the manufacturers or the industry, where they deem this as an extra cost of operations to them. So most of them, especially in Africa, revolt to that. But from our side, what we have to do is also just engage them and deliberate, and also now come to a common ground. Because for the issue of cost, mostly we also compare, especially in Africa, which countries have already started these audit inspections, how much are they charging for local and foreign companies, and then see if you can adapt that or revise and implement it. And also maybe to the industry, I think they should be also knowing that the primary objective is to release safe, effective, and also good quality medical devices to the market. And as one of the presenters said in the morning, some of us are regulators, some are from the industry, but above all, we are also patients.
Thank you, Mr. Shellan. So the potential of MedSAP to transform healthcare in Africa is immense. By embracing the global standard, we can elevate the quality of cares, protect patients, and build a healthier future for generations to come. Okay, let's inspire each other to take actions and make a difference. Allow me to close the session by an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Thank you all. Thank you. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I have questions that probably will sound like I'm the devil's advocate, depending on which side you sit on. But to ask, maybe just to respond to the question you asked about challenges with MDSAP, maybe the elephant in the room is we know in some instance the NRAs can generate revenue, or rather it's a revenue earner for them in some streams for GMP. So maybe just from my perspective is how do you manage the need for NRAs to generate revenue where these can be non-value add tasks? If Tanzania wants to do GMP inspection, Rwanda, Uganda, and same countries in the same region, but now if MDSAP is already an available pathway, how can you accelerate that to be the preferable option? That way they can free up resources from finance, rather from the resource aspect to then focus on other perspectives. So maybe just for the regulators in the room and in Africa, how do we then maybe just change that dynamic where there's a need to, or motivation to perform GMP inspections because of the financial revenue that they get from the companies as such? Yeah, and then also in my engagements with other regulators, like from Ghana, there was, I think, a workshop where they were focusing on GMP, or rather MDSAP, but from my engagements, I learned that they have some hesitations on the scope that MDSAP audits are performed according to. For instance, if sterility is not done in the scope, raw materials, post-production activities, some regulators may have a reticence or hesitance that they can rely on that report, where they have seen instances where big companies, big name companies may have issues with audits in those specific fields, sterility or raw materials, supplier materials. So how can MDSAP be reformulated, or how to get more regulators with these hesitations on board? Because when they see the MDSAP report and it doesn't have the scope they're comfortable with, they will deny it, or rather overlook it and want to perform their own audit. So that becomes another cost to the patient or delay for market access. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So who would like to tackle it?
Maybe I can tackle your first question. For this, I think it's a very tricky situation, and it needs collaboration amongst the African countries. And one of my suggestions was maybe through the African continent or the regional economic blocks, we can decide to have these mutual recognition agreements where one single audit can be recognized in several markets. So that if, for example, in East Africa, if Tanzania has already conducted an inspection audit at a certain site, then Kenya can adapt that by the MRA. So I think maybe someone else can tackle the second question.
On the second point, if you've already got MDSAP, which has a reasonable scope, and if they're finding sort of maybe isolated deficiencies in that, there's no reason why you can't have other adaptative processes to do an audit instead of an on-site inspection. You can use desktop audits, you can ask for that verification in different ways and formats. So I think in itself, that wouldn't, saying that the scope is not wide enough should not automatically make you eligible for an on-site inspection. I do want to also address the fees issue. From an industry perspective, I think we're not averse to fees that are reasonable and fair based on the activities that are involved. So you could also have a fee structure. So if you are doing recognition, if you are doing an abridged review, like I've said with the desktop audit, you could have different fee structures for that, so that it becomes fair and equitable in terms of, as you said, revenue generating, but also fair to industry, which does not have then a knock-on effect onto the cost and the pricing that will affect the access to patients.
Thank you. Another question, yeah?
Hi, it's Simone again. I hope everybody understands what they're talking when they say MDSAP. MDSAP is about an agreement between 5 countries. It's a single audit program to check that you comply with their regulations of those 5 countries, together with the quality management system requirements which sit within those regulations. So when you get MDSAP for CE-mark products, it's saying that you can then sell it, you're also applying to sell it in America and Canada and Japan, because those are the five countries which you are getting approval for. So if you have another regulator that wants to join MDSAP, they're going to have to go through a process to join, because then they have to include those regulations into the single audit program. So the single audit, the audit encompasses both QMS and regulatory requirements. And that is why it is so expensive. Because if you, and the whole audit program, any audit is based on the scope of your organization. So if you want an audit for the certificate as a manufacturer, you'll either get it for including sterilization or excluding, depending on what the scope of your operation is. It's not MDSAP that defines the scope. It's the auditing company that will define the scope, which should be defined in their quality system. Now, when they say, well, capacity-wise, this is where technical experts come into play. So this is where the notified bodies who are registered with the European Commission, or the experts that sit within the FDA, or the experts that sit in Canada, they will all be chosen depending on the scope for the expertise for the product, or the products or the processes that need the audit. There's no single price for an audit because it all depends on the product, products, processes, and the scope of the organization. So I think we need to be very careful about generalizing the word MDSAP. It's a single audit program, depending what you want to be certified to include, which is in relation to the scope of your organization. I hope everyone's clear on that. So if South Africa wants to join MDSAP, we would have to go through a whole program to join the MDSAP organization, which also comes at a cost. And ultimately, that cost is going to come back onto the manufacturer. So maybe we as an African continent, maybe we need an African continent medical device single audit program. And maybe that's something we need to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes?
Okay, one more question.
Okay.
Hi, this goes to Kenya. You mentioned earlier that although you're leveraging MDSAP, that does not preclude the PPB from inspecting distributors and manufacturers. Can you talk more about that, please?
Okay, I'll talk about what is happening currently. So currently, we had already instigated guidelines for local audit inspections. For the foreign ones, plans are ongoing, but we still haven't officialized them. So once we do that, it will be in one of our milestones. But currently, it's only for local medical device manufacturers.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you all. Thank you, my panelists, and thank you for your interest in the session. Thank you, Baba.